Lego is here. Hey, kids, look. A whole new world to build.
Lego is a timeless product, lasting nearly an entire century. Its global appeal is astounding, breaking linguistic, cultural, and geographical barriers to bring together fans of the brick. It's not a contested argument that Lego has a universal appeal. In recent years, we've seen the company make a plighted campaign to appeal to an adult audience. Lego realized that they had greatly underestimated the number of adults who are actually interested in Lego collecting. They were able to clearly grab the attention of adult collectors by launching advertisements, creating sets, and incorporating more mature themes into their set portfolio. Although for a company as brand conscious as Lego, it might seem surprising to hear that in 2008, after conducting a metrics survey about their product portfolio, researchers at the company realized that a shocking 90% of their products were mainly catered to a male consumer base. This raises a lot of ethical and historical questions about the company. Didn't Lego have a flagship theme catered towards girls years ago? How was Lego so brand conscious but completely overlooked a core part of their intended audience? After all, competing toy manufacturers such as Mattel had Barbie, while Hasbro had their own predominantly girl-focused toy line, My Little Pony, as well as other several spin-offs. Lego was missing something. In fact, they've been missing a flagship theme for girls for over a decade at the time the survey was taken in 2008. Let's take ourselves back to the early 70s, when Lego had just begun to cater to the girls market with the advent of their first girl-centered series, the Homemaker line. Homemaker was released towards the earlier years of Lego. In fact, the company had only existed for just under 40 years at the time. This was during an era of Lego where the modern minifigure was yet to be invented, and Lego was still experimenting with the idea of creating a more concise building experience for fans. It was at this time that Lego would create these larger scale family figures that are meant to represent different people throughout the household. The figures were entirely brick built, and most were 1.5 to 2 times larger than a traditional minifigure. The sets had a sort of modular design, meaning that you could combine the base plates and make different segments of a home. The designs made sense in their most basic form. Children would have more of an incentive to own more parts of the home and expand their mid-scale Lego houses. It was a rather interesting theme at the time because Lego's portfolio seemed to include sets that were more so focused on vehicles and things of special interest, unlike the appeal of Homemaker's backdrops. I'd like to think that the Homemaker line was sort of like a macro-scale interior of buildings seen in the more traditional Lego sets that were out at the time. In some ways, I think that Lego was trying to compete with other dollhouse brands. This would be their precursor to more refined themes we'd seen further into the future. Another lineup that Lego had introduced towards the late 70s is Scala. Scala is a bit of a weird theme riddled with a lot of inconsistencies. The early Scala was known as the jewelry lineup, and the later more well-known one was the dollhouse era of Scala. During the initial release, Lego released customizable jewelry in the form of bracelets, rings, and pendants with traditional Lego system 2x2 tiles matched together with Lego joints. The tiles included basic prints of birds, flowers, butterflies, hearts, numbers, letters, and solid colors. They weren't really all that special, and I assume that's because of its short lifespan on shelves. Lego ended up canning their original take on Scala. Towards the later years of the 90s, Lego had created a new system for Scala that was nearly parallel to competing dollhouse toys such as Barbie. Scala dolls were a little different than that of traditional dolls, as they were molded with a specially designed stud mold specifically meant for the Scala system. It was through this new system that Lego would produce dozens of dolls, homes, accessory kits, and many other miscellaneous items that were part of the Scala system. Scala accessory packs included customizations such as babies, teddy bears, dress expansions, furniture, jewelry, and numerous other parts to customize the dollhouse structures. The box art for this one in particular is something you'll probably never see Lego do again. It's just a cavalcade of parts mashed together, showcasing what the parts could potentially be used for. Well, after the decline of sales in the Scala brand, LEGO had to try something new. Paradisa was a release that was closer to the merits of the original LEGO spirit. In the late 90s, LEGO would set out to launch Paradisa, introducing new vibrant pastel colors into the LEGO color palette. They would also incorporate new elements as well as pre-existing ones to create scenic villas, mansions, beach terraces, parks, and playgrounds. If you couldn't already tell, I love this theme. The return of the traditional LEGO minifigure is essential to the aesthetic of the theme. The interiors were well detailed and accessible. The color palette wasn't all too feminine, but it still stood out compared to other competing LEGO themes that rested on store shelves at the time. In modern times, we get the occasional city or house set, but never a full-on mansion with detailed interiors and an atmospheric mood. Paradisa was a dreamy and well-fleshed-out theme for its time, even if it had a relatively short lifespan of just 5 years. I feel like LEGO sets should have this balance that doesn't exactly cater to one gender. In the 21st century, I feel like we've clearly established that there really isn't such a thing as toys exclusively for girls and toys exclusively for boys. After all, anybody can like any theme, as there are plenty of fans of every theme no matter what gender they are, and Paradisa did just that. With the release of a new theme to replace Paradisa after a 2-year hiatus, Belville would see its debut. Belville was an approach from LEGO that combined the traditional LEGO system, as seen in Paradisa, and incorporated with many new larger custom molded pieces, which were similar to that of Scala, but still fit within the LEGO system. Belville had many sub-themes, such as equine ranches, princesses, studios, and casual playday sets. It seemed like LEGO had marketed the theme as a strictly separate experience than that of the other sets they were producing at the time. Even if the LEGO system was still in place, the figures and color palette had set the theme apart from others. The figures had been changed to a much smaller scale, but could also still fit within the LEGO system. Even though these smaller dolls did fit into the system, they didn't look very LEGO-like in appearance. The facial features were just a bit overly detailed and were still blending into that of traditional dolls. Belville ran from 1994 to late 2008, and subsequently retired after the sales of the theme waned. LEGO had tried to capture their core audience of younger girls, and saw some success as the theme had a much longer runtime than that of its predecessors. LEGO had placed the idea of a dedicated girls theme on hold for the next 6 years after the closure of the Belville theme. It was during this time that LEGO had realized they were missing a good chunk of their potential audience with the untapped market of a new girl-centered theme. This potentially new theme would have to perfectly capture activities that girls would like, while also not straying too far from the LEGO brick. 2012 would lead to the entrance of the Friends LEGO theme, introducing new figures called mini dolls. They were the perfect balance between the traditional LEGO minifigure by being within the same scale, and were just as posable and expressive as a minifigure, and were not a total divorce from the traditional merits of LEGO sets. In fact, they had a pretty great aesthetic that would match the product portfolio in LEGO stores today. Earlier sets from the launch of Friends had an all-new color palette that complemented existing LEGO themes with lighter blues, vibrant pinks, sand orange, and blended with more neutral colors such as beige and white. Most Friends sets have settings in schools, farms, lake houses, mansions, ranches, restaurants, pools, libraries, and a variety of other locations. Friends has been the longest running theme marketed towards girls, running from 2012 to the current year. In fact, LEGO has released a remodel of the girls theme, introducing a whole new set of characters and adding more male figures to the portfolio in order to remain an inclusive brand. I would talk more about other spin-off series such as DC Superhero Girls, Disney Princesses, and Elves, but they are all based on the same product layout and formula that Friends was produced with. They all incorporate mini dolls into their sets. They're mostly just different color palettes, stories, and assembly strategies with the occasional special set of parts that distinguish them from each other. LEGO had taken notice with the success of the Friends theme and decided against changing these other themes as their mini doll idea had worked before. Interestingly enough, there is some more history about the Friends theme if you keep digging. The Leicester Square LEGO store has a display that showcases all the proposed ideas for a mini doll. LEGO had mastered the builds, vehicles, and other structures, but clearly realized that they were struggling with the first impressions that figures or dolls would have on the performance of their products. These designs were wild, and I'm kind of glad that LEGO stuck to the current design that was deemed ready for consumers. It's fascinating to see how much research and development goes into creating these products. It took LEGO nearly 20 years to master and take a foothold of the girls' market for toys.